we're going to people and everything, and Nigerians are going to be on the workshop floor because in fact, they talk about technology transfer, knowledge transfer. Oftentimes, we don't see that when we bring expatriates into Nigeria. The expatriates stay and they hand over to other expatriates and they hand over to other expatriates and they keep handing over to other expatriates without grooming Nigerians and transferring those skills to Nigerians that can actually take over. So yes, it is time we begin to look inwards towards being able to manufacture things we need locally. But do we have a robust policy towards this? Do we have a robust industry towards this? Question.
Okay.
I know you have something to do with the Polytechnic, Ibadan. I know you teach there.
Yeah.
But you and I both know that your curriculum over there is still as it is now. It is not relevant.
Okay, that cannot be said here. I mean,
I understand, of course.
Ascertain that.
Of course, I understand. Now, but you need to know that the only reason you have that challenge over there is because there are no technical colleges anymore. So what are we going to do to bring back the technical colleges to do the footwork, to become the foot soldiers, so that the institutions of higher learning can focus on R&D, which is what they are supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But we have taken the mundane things into institutions of tertiary institutions to do when they should actually be doing the R&D part of this. And these are some of the challenges we need to restructure in terms of upskilling.
Okay.
What kind of skills are required for the industry that we are trying to put together? And we need to know which area of our educational system is going to take care of that skill that is required. And then we can make progress from there.
Yeah, thank you very much. You touched quite a lot of parts, and I quickly want to recap right now. For a long time in Nigeria, our education has been talking about go to school, get a good grade, get a job. But you hammered so much on key things right now. You talked about skills. Now, schools are beginning to, incorporate entrepreneurship training and education into their curriculum. I mean, over time, we've been able to discover this wide gap between schools and industries. You train people, industries have to retrain them for whatever they need them for. So it's better they start learning skilled, acquired education right in school. And you see, where Nigeria missed it totally is because Polytechnic is meant for technical education. It doesn't mean they are inferior to a degree. But the policy, like you have mentioned it again, I said you touched quite a number of areas. I know we do make policies, but we do not enforce them. The automobile industry policy they made sometimes ago during Goodluck Jonathan, Jelani came around, they said they want to review it and all of that. I don't know where that is right now. So quite a lot of things are just in different places scattered all around. So when it comes to polytechnic education, you should acquire a lot of technical skills while here. And I can believe, and I can still say that whatever that you see as a skill in our society, if it's not self-inspired or self-learning, it's basically coming from a polytechnic. Right now, you also talked about research and development. It's a place where I don't like talking about at all because Nigeria does not see that as anything. Nobody is funding anything called research. I mean, I listened to Edmond Obilo say that this is the period where our university professors, doctors, supposed to be researching to bring out solutions to stop or combat this pandemic, but they're on strike. So it's a really a sad issue when it comes to education, industries, and the skills available. But I want to ask, is this really the fault of Nigerians or our policy makers? Whose fault is this? How do we move forward from here?
Well, I'm not much into blame allocation to people. I believe it doesn't really solve problems. So I don't bother with that. But however, going forward, I know we can do it.
Okay.
I know we can do better. I know we need to come to terms with the reality of the world today. And part of the reality of the world today is that when you get to a workplace now, the question is, what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
It's not much about where did you graduate,
or your degree,
in
or your
industries that have become dynamic. Industries have changed. The dynamics has changed now. People are looking at, what can you do? What do you have to offer? Now, at what point are we going to sit down and review the way we do things and ask that question? And I think now is the best time. This is about the best opportunity. I have a feeling that if we miss it now, we miss it completely. COVID-19 is presenting us with an amazing opportunity to look inwards and take drastic actions. Because really, right now, what do we have to lose that we have not already lost?
Abi?
So now we can build from the ashes. We can absolutely afford to build from the ashes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, government needs to direct its money to where it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Part of where government money matters now is to set up committees, put groups in place, let them come and brainstorm on the way forward for some of these things, including the way forward for education, the way forward for tertiary education, for monotechnics, for polytechnics. They need to do that now. Do a curriculum review based on the needs assessment that is done by the industry. For example, bring all the bank dons together and ask them, what kind of skill do you require for people to work in the bank? Then let them document that. People in the manufacturing, what kind of skill do you require? Let them begin to document this. And by the time we put all of these together, we can sit down and come up with a new educational policy that will assist us in galvanizing what we have right now for the future. Because the future of work is here, whether we like it or not. If we're still training people to wear suits in the morning and go to work, people that earn the real money all over the world don't wear suits to work. In fact, sometimes they don't leave their house to go to work. There's remote working. I mean, in my office now, almost 60% of my staff to 70% are working remotely. I've been working remotely almost a month. I don't need them to show up at work every day because it becomes a new norm.
Yeah.
And if that becomes a new norm, we must begin to actually galvanize what we have on ground to meet those demands. So what do we need to do going forward? We need to look at the areas of our national development. If we cannot effectively feed ourselves, we cannot make progress. So let's look at it. What innovations do we need to bring into agriculture to allow us to become self-sufficient when it comes to food? With that, the moment we talk about that innovation and want to ask questions about it, industrialization will come in automatically. Because now we will put farm implements in place that are smart. I can remember earlier in the, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, when I was reading about what John Deere is doing. I don't know if you know John Deere. They're a tractor manufacturing company in the US.
Okay.
And about 3 years ago or 4, they bought over a software company. And everybody kept on asking, what is John Deere doing with a software company? But what have they been able to achieve with that? Now they have incorporated AI into some of their tractors in such a way that a farmer will sit down in his tractor, program what he wants in there, and will harvest for him only ripe strawberry on his farm. And he will clear up about 50 hectares of land within 6 hours of him just drinking coffee while sitting down behind the console, and he will only harvest ripe fruits as a result of AI, which means that this used to be the job that 4,000 people were doing before. And that is the future of work. And the truth is, if we are still going to be looking at subsistence farming, where we need 10 million people to harvest cassava, then we are not ready for the kind of food security we want to achieve.
Definitely.
Now, by the time we are done with food security, we move on into the fact that we want to store. At that point, industrialization and technology is also the only way forward. How do we put in place silos where we can store food and put food in such a state that we can use it for longer without waste, minimizing waste? Now, by the time we look at it, then we are going to have to look at, okay, some of these things we need to process. Now, I was in Dubai about 2 years ago, and we're having a conversation with how much of normal egg that people eat that has been turned to powder for storage in sachets.
Wow.
So that if you want to fry egg, all you have to do is mix the powder with water and fry, and you have egg tasting fresh. Now, it means that we are going to have to use technology and industrialization to achieve that as well. Now, when we begin to solve the problem of food, we're solving a lot of problems in terms of employment, in terms of technology at the same time, because some people will have to think of how to get these things done. And even if it's not how to get it done, how do we implement it? We need to train people, upskill our people to be able to do these things. So when we move away from we have sorted out with food, then we will know that we need to look beyond stomach and begin the act of nation building. And nation building cannot start if you cannot dream big. Somebody, JFK, sat down in the US and said, you know what, we're going to space, and I will give you everything it takes to get you to space. Just send me the bill. We will pay for it. And they put a man on the moon. Now, it takes sheer determination, political will, and interest in getting things like that done. I could also remember a client of mine who studied in the old USSR was telling me that when he got to the USSR to study, he went there to study medicine. Said at that time when he got there, I can't remember the decade, especially whether it was in the 40s or 50s, I don't know right now, I can't remember. But he's a professor of medicine right now in Nigeria. And so when he got to Russia, there were no toilet papers. They were using newspapers that they cut to small sizes in the toilets, even in the 5-star hotels in Russia.
Wow.
So there were no sanitary pads. The women were using cotton wool at that time, including top-notch people. He said the biro they were using in USSR had no cover because they felt it was a waste of time to have cover. What you wanted to do with the biro is to write. Why do you need a cover for a biro to write? He said from there, if you want to buy tomato paste, you had to go there with your cup or container you wanted to collect it for. There were no sachet tomato paste and there were no canned tomato paste. But at that time, Russia was already preparing to go to space. Even though they were not enjoying those little things. I mean, I'm using the word enjoy now in inverted comma. Those little things, they had a national ambition of what they wanted to do. They looked at the areas of national development they wanted to consider, and the cover to a biro was not on that list because it didn't really matter. So he said after about 4 years he had spent there, at some point the Communist Party came together and began to ask questions of national development. And they realized that they had their own made in Russia cars, which was the Lada. They had gone to space at that point. They had nuclear power at that point. So what did they do? They said at that point they decided that it was time for them to get their people to enjoy. And what did they do? They brought out a law at that point in time to repurpose factories to make everything that was necessary for people. He said within 6 months, there was toilet paper everywhere made in Russia. There was sachet tomato. There were all forms of luxury items that people wanted to enjoy now available because they had put together, aggregated what they had built over time. And these little things became very simple for them to conquer because they had conquered the big things that affected their national life. So if we truly want to come to our reality now, we do not have to go back to what Russia had to do. We just need to focus. People always say, oh, we will get there, we will get there. And I always say it took China less than 30 years to get there. They did what they needed to do. They were drastic about it, but it took them less than 30 years. We have been at this for over 60 years. What's going on? We can actually get things done faster now because we don't have to make mistakes that have been made before.
Yeah.
As much as we don't have to make those mistakes, we can leverage on existing technology. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That is what I believe also.
We just need to be interested in doing what needs to be done and starting with let's repurpose our system to accept the kind of changes we need to make to be self-sufficient. Like I said, food security is number one. The moment we can eliminate food needs, we can get our people onto the streets, onto the research laboratories, into the farms to do more than they are presently doing. And that's where we need to go. So we need to repurpose what we are thinking of right now, talking about subsistence. I mean, why do we think that farming is the biggest form of employment we can create? That is so 1950s and 1960s in thoughts. Why are we trying to get 10 million people to go into farming? Why do we need 10 million people in farming? Why can't we just get 1 million people into farming and put another 15 million in the agri value chain, and we put another 25 million in aggregation of farm produce for export? And why can't we do that? Why are we only focused on farming, when really there isn't even money in farming? Money is in the value chain. The agri value chain is where the money is. The processing is where the money is. And that's one of the things I think we need to do right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for this great insight. Briefly, who is going to kickstart this national development? Who?
We are going to have to do that. Each individual.
Okay, so everybody.
Now, the thing is, government is going to eventually drive it. But the reality is that we're going to have to command government's attention.
Okay.
And the only way we can command government attention is personal excellence. Okay. What you are doing with Think Electric Africa is what is considered personal excellence, because you are on your own trying to find solutions to everyday problems. Okay. And you're getting attention. It may not be good enough right now, but you and I both know that you are getting more traction than you had 3 years ago, more traction than you had last year. Yeah. If even sometimes if the accolades are not coming locally from the international level, they would look back and say, this guy is doing something in Africa. And the truth is, if we begin to form clusters of people doing innovation in various corners, the thing is, at some point, government is going to need us and seek us out to come and solve problems for them. That's where it's going to end. But as individuals, we have to begin to look at excellence, achieving excellence in everything we do. Look at the men who built America, J.G. Rockefeller, the Carnegies, and the Henry Fords and the rest. They became excellent in their own realm and decided that it was time for national development, and we are going to drive this, because you know what? Of all the money we have made, we want to build a better country for our children and our grandchildren. And we need to start looking into personal excellence now in everything we do.
Okay. I love the submission. I was going to talk about Think Electric Africa when you were talking about skill acquisition, the emerging technologies and everything. Recently, I have invested quite a lot in all these emerging technologies. And like I said, I do bring my students around for them to learn one or two things. Because when we talk about technology in Nigeria, I think the only thing people think about is only the software. And the hardware is only part of the technology.
IT is the only thing we look at. IT software, mostly. Yeah, that's it.
Coding. And in mechatronics and automation and all of that, software alone cannot drive what you do. You have to have a perfect hardware. Then you put a software that will continue to run on it and begin to iterate it. And I mean, that's what differentiates Tesla from other manufacturers. They've been able to have a very good hardware, and they now have a very sophisticated software to drive it. And
that's driving it.
And that's why they're leading. So
I'm sorry to interject, but I'll tell you this. What is the essence of having a beautiful website where you don't have a server to host it?
Yeah. That's a very good illustration for those that really understand it. You know, I mean, what is the essence of having a very good operating system without a laptop or
a computer?
Okay, so that's it. We've invested in laser technology, all the CNCs, the 3D printing, all the embedded system we could lay our hands on. And in fact, I was going to make a video with a guy, Endurance Robot in the US, who has given us a huge discount on some of these gadgets we just acquired. So for the pandemic, the supply chain, the shipping has been so slow. But then before the end of this year, I'm going to launch this kind of education whereby people can learn what they can do with 3D printing, with laser, with all the CNCs we have. These are skills. If they build on their own, it will spark their innovation and they'll be able to create things. Think Electric Africa is to teach people to create things, make things all by yourself, and you can begin to sell it. Thank you very much. I think we'll begin to round up this conversation. I know when I call you again, you'll be available. But then let's talk about the oil prices. Is it the end of oil in the world? What are we beginning? What's the alternative? I mean, I know you've had a kind of controversial opinion about electric vehicle. We've discussed a lot about it. But then right now, before you even talk about electric vehicle, because we're talking about automobile industry, is it the end or the beginning of the end of oil and gas in the world?
I don't think this is a good time for that question, honestly, because finance and economics drives almost everything, including research and innovation.
Yeah.
This year is when the revolution, as it were, of electronic mobility was supposed to kickstart and drive very, very fast. Between 2020 and 2025, industry watchers will tell you that we're supposed to hit a plateau in terms of saying, yes, we have arrived with electric mobility by 2025. And it was supposed to be between 2020 and 2025. Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, it looks like it is becoming less lucrative for people to want to invest in like it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Now, the price of oil has almost plummeted to zero, which means petrol is cheap now again.
Yeah.
And the world is in survival mode in terms of recession everywhere. Every government is just printing money now, basically. It's not as if they're making money. So a recession is what we have been faced with right now. And yes, during a recession, the cheapest commodity takes the day. Right now, compared to electric, fuel is the cheaper option.
Okay.
It means that before people start thinking electric again, you know, one of the two things drove the price of electric, the innovation of electric cars. Okay. One, oil prices was a major issue. Two, environmental impact.
Yeah.
Those were the two major drivers of electric mobility. Mm-hmm. However, right now, the world is in a survival mode. Mm-hmm. The truth is, I mean, yesterday I was having a conversation with a professor of medicine who was saying that the world is cleaner now than it was 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And also that the world is saner now than it was a year ago. And that this is the time for us to understand that Mother Nature does not need us. We need Mother Nature. And that this is the time that humans should understand that we have gone through too much environmental destruction in terms of how much we pollute the environment that we're in. He said, but one thing that he has taken from this is that it looks like as human beings, from what he sees after the pandemic, we are going to become more aggressive with consumption, and more so it's going to be reckless consumption, he predicts, in the sense that we want to make up for lost time with this pandemic. And if fuel prices or oil prices stay low, you will find people buying more V8, V16 engines, irrespective of the emission and all of that. Because right now, people are just stressed out and they want to express themselves. Now, the fact that we were pushed to the brink of going electric in terms of environmental impact, that may be lost due to this pandemic right now. For example, Americans got their relief check a few weeks ago, $1,200 to some households. Some got $1,800, and that week that check got into the U.S., that people got their checks, research showed that